What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Bert, back with another deck tech, this time featuring Araumi of the Dead Tide. This has been one of my favorite decks, so it's a no-brainer that it'd be one that I share with y'all. Let's get into it. Our commander this time around is Araumi of the Dead Tide. She's a 3-mana 1/4 merfolk wizard with the following text. Tap. Exile cards from your graveyard equal to the number of opponents you have. Target creature in your graveyard gains Encore until the end of turn. The Encore cost is equal to its mana cost. Let's go ahead and go into Encore. Exile the creature card and pay its mana cost. For each opponent, create a token that attacks that opponent if able this turn. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery. So this time around we're a reanimator deck that wants to fill our graveyard and encore some of our powerful creatures out. Like always, since we have an idea what the commander does, let's go over the overall gameplay loop. What does a game look like for Araumi? Well, our ideal gameplay loop is to put cards in our graveyard early with cheaply costed effects, so that late game we can encore powerful creatures and drown our opponents in value and game actions. Since we have the gameplay loop in mind, let's get to those foundational effects. So our ramp package this time around consists of Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Fell War Stone, Talisman of Dominance, Patriarch Seal, and Solemn Simulacrum. Okay, it's a little bit light here, but I don't really have too many options in blue and black. So instead, I went up to 38 lands in this deck to make sure that I hit my land drops consistently. And to prove that, we're going to go into the card draw next. So here in card draw, it's more aptly named card advantage, as we can profit from milling, surveilling, and discarding cards. So to mention a few in this section, we have Stitcher Supplier, a bird-approved Snarling Gorehound, Floating Dream Zubera, and Undead Augur, which are Araumi classics and premier encore targets, as the draw potential from them can be astronomical. Night's Whisper and Notion Rain are some unconditional draw, as well as one of my favorite cards, Contaminated Drink, which has the added benefit of giving us rad counters so we can both draw and mill. I was mindful and include a plethora of effects to draw cards in this deck. These are only some of the options, so let's get into the removal. In our removal package, we have a bit of it on our creatures to make out the most of the Encore ability. So some examples are Cavalier of Night, Massacre Worm, Plague Crafter, Noxious Gearholt, and to an extent, Kyrie of the Swirling Sky. She can bounce some things from our opponent's board back to their hand, which gets rid of tokens really easily. Then we also have Deadly Rollick to round out the package. So it may seem light, but remember we usually get 3 encore triggers, so I didn't want to be overzealous and overwhelm our opponents with too much removal. So with the foundational effects covered, let's get into the spice. So I have a few spice picks here for you, so let's go over them. Wake the Dead is definitely worth a mention. I brought it up in a previous video, but it deserves a lot more respect. Picking up some stronger creatures out of the yard can make the difference in combat on your opponent's turn, but you can also pick up some utility creatures and just have some MTBs trigger. Flesh Duplicate is a favorite card of mine lately. Vanishing 3 is not a big a deal, especially if it's Encore, and you have to sacrifice it at the end of turn anyway. The possibilities here are endless, so it's definitely worth the slot. Doom Whisper is a great include here, and it can enable some amazing graveyard shenanigans. Pay 2 life to surveil 2 is a sweet deal, but for you folks at home, remember to pace yourself and not to lose too much life. Burning Rune Demon can go and get 2 cards not named Burning Rune Demon, and an opponent chooses one to go to your hand and the other goes to the graveyard. A 6-mana tutor with a 6/6 flying body seems really good. Don't even get me started about Encore. Archon of Cruelty is just a beating in this deck. 8 mana is a lot, but I've encored it before and boy does it feel good. It's a force to be reckoned with, and you definitely have to put some respect on this name. Lastly, we have one card that continues to impress me, and that's Incarnation Technique. I've demonstrated this card a few times, which means that I can make a copy on the stack and give that to an opponent, and they do the same thing that the spell does. So they mill 5 cards and choose a creature card from their graveyard and put it on the battlefield. But I get a second copy if I do that. So I do this effect twice and somebody does it once, and you typically just target the player who's not playing a creature heavy deck at the table and just profit. It's rare that my opponents get anything better than I do. I love this card and this effect. So the future of the deck. So what does the longevity of this deck look like when compared to my other decks in my stable? It's one of my favorite decks at the moment, and I definitely think it has some staying power. The gameplay loop is fun and engaging. It's always fun to play in a game where somebody exiles my graveyard, so I have to find a way to play around it. I know that's wild. Some people don't like getting their graveyard exiled. I personally just find it a hurdle to get through the game. As mentioned in the last video, I will be grading my decks with the following rubric. S means I love the deck and its gameplay loop, and I feel that the cards in the deck have solidified their place. A means I love the deck and the gameplay loop, but the cards can be swapped out and made for improvements. B means I love the idea of the deck, but the gameplay loop is unfamiliar due to the lack of games. And C means I'm mid on the deck and the gameplay loop hasn't excited me for a while. Araumi definitely gets an A. I believe there will be cards in later sets that will set the deck off, and I'm excited to see how it grows. So that's it for my Araumi deck. What do you think? What are some cards that you would have included? Decklist is in the description as usual, and remember to like and subscribe, and that I stream on Twitch every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Coast to Coast Commander stream. Until next time, take care.